The closing bell has rung, but the business story continues. I'm Robert Tan, you're watching Business Brief. Let's get started. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. mulls emergency powers to address a looming oil price spike that will be triggered by the Middle East conflict. President Marcos also says the repatriation of Filipino workers from the Middle East is not possible for now. And a foreign policy expert warns the violence in the Middle East may reach Philippine shores. President Marcos Jr. says an oil excise tax cut is under study as the government moves to mitigate the economic impact of rising Middle East tensions. In a press briefing at Malacanang, the president says he may seek emergency authority from Congress to temporarily reduce excise tax on petroleum products.
Maybe this is not yet a sure thing, but this is something that we are discussing, and it could be helpful. Is to give me the president the authority to reduce excise tax on petroleum products should Dubai crude exceed $80 per barrel. And that wala pa tayo doon. But if in case that happens, then maybe this is something that we will have to. This is one tool that we will have to have. So I will discuss it with the leadership of Congress and to see it is going to be an emergency measure. It is not going to be a permanent measure. It will be something that we will dispose of as soon as the crisis is over.
The president also assures the public that fuel supply remains sufficient, with stockpiles covering several weeks, and orders energy-saving measures.
We have given instruction and to all government offices to find ways to be more to save on energy. That applies, ito, panawagan ko na rin ito sa taong bayan. Maghanap tayo ng paraan upang mabawasan ang ating paggamit ng lahat ng mga sources of energy natin. Ito ay hindi pa, kagaya ng sabi ko, sapat naman ang supply natin. Ngunit ay baka sakali, ito ay kakailanganin natin gawin ito upang mabawasan nga ang pagbayad dahil tataas nga ang presyo.
President Bongbong Marcos says the air evacuation is not feasible for now as the conflict in the Middle East intensifies. In a briefing in Malacanang, Marcos says the situation is very fluid, with airports closed, airspace restricted, and combat operations expanding. PBBM reports that over 1,400 Filipinos in the Middle East have requested repatriation. 586 of them are in Dubai, 297 in Israel, 270 in Abu Dhabi, 231 in Bahrain, 22 in Jordan, and 10 in Iran.
Meron mga option na nagsasabing by land. Yun din ay delikado din dahil kung magkaroon ng friendly fire incident, alam nyo, pagka may putukan, it is an active combat zone. Pag nakakita ka ng maraming sasakyan, baka bombahin yun. Because they will misidentify it as some hostile movement.
Filipinos in affected areas are advised to shelter in place and follow host government guidance.
Right now, safety first for our people, and they are in constant contact with our embassy staff, both and the families of those who are working and living in the Gulf countries.
For more on the ripple effects of the war in the Middle East, we're joined by Munir Anastas, Ambassador of the State of Palestine to the Philippines. Good afternoon, Ambassador. Ambassador, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Now, Ambassador,
and thank you for having me with you.
Ambassador, with all crossings into Gaza currently closed, how long will food and other supplies in Gaza last before they run out?
Well, as a matter of fact, based on reports from UN officials and aid workers on the ground, the Gaza Strip is facing an immediate and severe shortage of supplies following the closure of all border crossing by Israel. Fuel is expected to run out within a matter of days, while the situation for food is more uncertain. Concerning fuel that is supposed to run out in a couple of days, UN officials say it is critical for hospital generators, water pumps, bakeries, and solid waste collection, among other things. As for food, aid workers say supplies are tight. UN and local aid workers say stocks of vegetables, flour, and other staples could very soon run out if crossings remain shut. And the UN has emphasized that it is imperative that all crossings be reopened as soon as possible to allow for a sustained flow of aid.
Do you have information, Ambassador, on how soon that will be?
About the opening, you mean, of the
border crossings,
crossing
yes.
borders?
Yes.
Yes, actually, the situation is rapidly evolving. And just yesterday, March 2, the Israeli authorities announced they would reopen the Karem Abu Salem, Kerem Shalom crossing border on Tuesday, which means today, for gradual entry of humanitarian aid. And the latest information I received indicates that it was reopened a few hours ago. Nevertheless, it remains unclear how much aid will enter and whether this will be enough to avert the predicted shortages.
Now, has Israel stopped military operations in Gaza?
So you're talking here about the ceasefire. Yes, let me give you an overview of the Israeli definition of ceasefire. And here I will refer to an Israeli journalist, Gideon Levy. He says, I quote, "When Israelis are not being killed, there is a ceasefire. When Israelis are not being killed, but over 400 or 500 Palestinians in Gaza are, including 100 children, that too is called a ceasefire. When the Israeli army demolishes 2,500 houses in Gaza, that is still called a ceasefire," unquote. So you understand with this that Israel is not respecting the ceasefire and did not stop military operations in Gaza so far since the beginning of the so-called ceasefire.
Ambassador, and with international attention right now shifting to the conflict in Iran, what steps can Palestinian officials take to keep the world focused on Gaza's ongoing recovery and the fragile ceasefire you've mentioned?
Well, to keep the world focused on Gaza, our government and our leaders are taking the following steps. First, calling for intensified international pressure on Israel to implement and respect the ceasefire and allow aid in. Second, conducting direct communication with the US and engaging with other governments through international diplomats. Third, promoting a detailed $65 billion reconstruction plan to show readiness and a clear path forward, noting that this reconstruction plan has been approved by the Arab League, the OIC, the EU, and many other countries around the world. Four, our government is currently establishing a formal liaison office to coordinate with the UN and international community on the ground in the Gaza Strip.
And Ambassador, finally, are you confident that US President Trump will keep his promise to fund the reconstruction of Gaza?
Well, I don't know if we can talk about confidence, but in case, my confidence will be very moderate that President Trump will follow through on the full $10 billion pledge. While he announced the commitment at the Board of Peace meeting, there are significant unresolved issues The first one, and very important one, is the congressional approval that is needed for such a fund. And the second thing, he tied this fund to the disarmament of Hamas. So these are the conditions to have this fund available. In any case, the most important for us, Palestinian Authority and Palestinian government, is the early and direct involvement of our government in the reconstruction process, bearing in mind that the Gaza Strip is an integral part of the territory of the State of Palestine.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for your time, Ambassador.
Thank you for having me.
That was Palestinian Ambassador Munir Anastas. Meanwhile, President Marcos Jr. says the government is studying the potential impact of the dollar-peso exchange rate on overseas Filipino workers' remittances amid tensions between the United States and Iran. The president says the government is closely monitoring the peso's movement against the dollar, describing the situation as a mixed bag with both positive and negative effects.
Kasi kung umakyat ang peso, lumalaki ang remittance. Pero kung bababa naman, ang actual na dolyar na pinapadala dito, di bababa. We don't know where that balance is going to end as of now. So we are watching it very closely. And for those who are interested, there is some sensitivity analysis that we have done what the effect is per $1 of per barrel cost will be, and what the effects will be on inflation, what the effects with the debt is here. Arce has provided us with some numbers, but these are very rough estimates on how it will affect the economy.
Remittances remain a key pillar of the Philippine economy and a lifeline for millions of families, with about 80 to 85% of overseas Filipino workers deployed in Gulf nations. The government may not act immediately even if oil prices hit $80 a barrel. Finance Secretary Frederick Gov't said any price surge must last for a period of time before action is taken. His statement came after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. announced he would discuss with Congress the power to cut excise tax on fuel if Dubai crude exceeds $80 per barrel.
Okay, so first, we are not reacting because the price of Dubai oil now is roughly around $76 to $78 per barrel. The possible emergency powers that we might seek for the president to react is if the price of Dubai oil exceeds $80 per barrel. Okay, and again, even if it exceeds $80 per barrel, doesn't mean we react right away. It also has to exist for a certain period of time.
As of 2:14 p.m., Brent crude prices rose by over 2% to $79.80. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the joint U.S.-Israel campaign against Iran is not an endless war. In an interview with American media, Netanyahu says it is up to the Iranian people to change the government following the targeted killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Saturday.
And I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia would be really possible and probably very close once this thing happens. So this is a gateway for peace, for a broader peace, and I believe that we can achieve it.
The skies over Iran fall silent as escalating aerial warfare forces airlines to steer clear of the region. Flight tracking data from Flight Radar 24 shows no civilian aircraft over Iran as airstrikes and drone activity intensify. International carriers are rerouting or canceling flights to avoid volatile Middle Eastern airspace. Major Gulf hubs, including the world's busiest Dubai International Airport, remain closed for a fourth straight day. The shutdown disrupts more than 1,000 daily flights and leaves tens of thousands of passengers stranded, marking the aviation's biggest test since the COVID-19 pandemic. A former finance secretary warns permanent fuel subsidies could hinder economic growth for the Philippines amid rising Middle East tensions. On BNC's Business 360, Cesar Purisima stresses the need for a balanced government response, supporting vulnerable sectors while maintaining fiscal discipline.
Our government is preparing fuel subsidies if oil reaches $80 a barrel, and fare hikes are being studied. What do you think of these responses to this?
I think that's good. The targeted subsidies is good, so long as it's temporary. We did that during the Aquino administration. We don't want a permanent subsidy, because that becomes like an anchor that will make it more difficult for the economy of the Philippines to move forward.
He also recommends key strategies such as reallocating the national budget to cut waste and engaging the private sector in projects.
That's a challenge. How to cushion consumers without weakening fiscal discipline or slippage? How do we balance that, Secretary Purisima?
Well, I mentioned it must be targeted, it must be temporary, and you must communicate it properly. At the same time, we have to rejig the budget and make sure that there is no wastage there, because I'm sure there is. And there's room there for us to squeeze more out of it, and then get the private sector involved through PPPs that will allow us to create more fiscal space, and without abdicating our desire to build, for example, more infrastructure, which is also badly needed.
A foreign policy expert warns the country is still exposed to possible militant risks as regional tensions escalate in the Middle East. On Bilyonaryo News Channel's At the Forefront, political analyst Romel Banlawi says terror threats in the Philippines are in decline but have not disappeared. Professor Banlawi notes that there are still Hezbollah followers aside from anti-Israeli and anti-American militants in the country. This comes amid concerns over the Marcos administration's stronger defense ties with Washington.
Ang hinihintay ko lang, may magbuhos ng pera sa mga to. May magbigay ng armas pag nagkaroon ng financing of terrorism.
Baka meron
yan. Kasi ngayon, kaya in decline ngayon ang terrorist threat sa Pilipinas because they don't have funds and sustain military operations, and also local government participation, as well as vigilance of the civil society.
President Donald Trump earlier mentioned that the military operations against Iran may last 4 to 5 weeks if necessary. But Banlawi warns other Middle Eastern countries might become sympathetic to Iran.
Anong magiging reaction ng mga Houthis sa Yemen, mga Hezbollah sa Lebanon, ng mga milisya sa Syria and Iraq. So hindi lang kasi Iran ang magiging problema. So magkakaroon yan ng mga reactions from other armed groups sympathetic to the current regime in Iran.
The Energy Department met with oil firms on Tuesday. Let's get the details from Just Ignacio. Just go ahead.
Robert, the Department of Energy has officially called for a press conference this Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This briefing follows an emergency meeting with oil companies regarding the impact of U.S.-Israel airstrikes in the Middle East. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin emphasized there is no cause for fear, as the Philippines currently maintains a sufficient 2-month supply of oil. The Secretary says they are hoping for the best, but they are also preparing for the worst. Secretary Green has instructed all oil companies to submit their complete contingency measures to the agency by tomorrow. Furthermore, the Philippine National Oil Company is now directed to explore alternative sources to assist local players if the situation escalates. The agency anticipates a price increase of over 1 peso for each product, though final calculations are still ongoing as they only have 1 day of data. Officials continue to monitor global developments closely to ensure the country's energy security remains stable amidst the ongoing regional tensions. Back to you, Robert.
Thank you for that report, Just Ignacio. The U.S. Embassy in Riyadh was hit by 2 drones, causing a minor fire and some material damage. The Saudi Defense Ministry says the attack occurred amid ongoing Iranian missile and drone strikes on Gulf states allied with the U.S. Black smoke was seen rising over Riyadh's diplomatic quarter, but no injuries were reported. The building was empty during the incident that happened early in the morning. The embassy issued a shelter-in-place notice for U.S. citizens in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Bahrain. It also advised citizens to avoid the facility until further notice. The Bureau of Internal Revenue, or BIR, starts the full enforcement of a law banning all offshore gaming operations in the Philippines. BIR Commissioner Charlito Martin Mendoza said the circular declares Philippine offshore gaming operations, or POGOs, illegal under Republic Act 1231-2, repealing the previous law that allowed them to operate. BIR said all licenses issued by PAGCOR and other agencies are considered revoked, while companies remain liable for taxes and fees accrued before ceasing operations. The move marks the end of an industry that had drawn criticism over legality, social impact, and regulatory oversight. We'll take a short break. This is Business Brief. The world feels more fragile than ever. Wars are expanding, trade routes are under pressure, oil prices are reacting, markets are volatile, but the real impact is not just global. It's personal. Every geopolitical shock eventually hits the Filipino household through higher prices, weaker purchasing power, and financial stress. And today we talk about protection first, not fear, not panic, strategy, because in uncertain times, the families who survive are the ones who prepared before the storm. Our guest today is Eman Paras, Agency Manager and Registered Financial Planner of Philippine Life, now an AIA company. He also served as President of the Life Underwriters Association, the Philippines Board of Trustees in 2016. And with decades of experience in protection and financial strategy, he helps Filipino families and entrepreneurs build resilient foundations that can withstand crisis. Now let's get into it. Eman, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Bro, thank you again for having me.
Now, Eman, the world feels more fragile than ever today with the wars, the trade tensions, oil shocks, geopolitical uncertainty rises. Now, what is the first financial move a Filipino household should make today?
So two things, no. The first one would be check their liquidity, make sure that they have cash. And then secondly, to be able to review their protection coverage, particularly their life insurance and their medical insurance.
Now, Eman, many people think global conflicts are far away. Now, how exactly do wars and geopolitical tensions translate into higher grocery bills, fuel prices, and loan interest rates here at home?
Yeah, so the Philippines imports majority of its oil overseas. So in the Middle East, right, where the war is right now. So with the tensions rising, that means like they closed out the Strait of Hormuz, if I'm not mistaken. So that means the logistics of putting the oil,
bring oil in,
will be more expensive.
Plus the prices.
Plus the price, yeah. So oil is a basic commodity. Oil is being used in manufacturing companies, everywhere, transportation. So when oil increases, all of the other commodities will also increase.
Domino effect.
Domino effect.
Grocery prices.
Grocery prices, yeah. So the effect of the war right now in the Philippines will be felt in our receipts, grocery receipts, grocery bills.
So it really hits the wallet very hard.
Yes.
Now, having said that, Emma, now if you were advising a middle-income Filipino family earning between 70 to 100,000 pesos a month, now what financial weakness would you immediately look for, in today's environment, and what's your advice to them in terms of how to invest, how to save, where to put the money?
Yeah, so three things. I will spot three weaknesses. So number one is their liquidity. If, for example, they don't have much savings that they could withdraw, cash flow. So that's number one, because it will affect them. If ever, for example, you won't know if there will be jobs that will be removed because of this crisis and everything. No? So number one, liquidity. Number two, are there coverages, life insurance and medical coverage, no? Because of stress, worry, and everything, no? It might translate into actual physical health concerns. So if you don't have like a medical coverage, you will shell out the expenses instead of the health insurance company paying for you. That's number two. And then third is debt.
Marami
Utang.
yan, yeah.
No, so I just read an article the other month that the average debt of a Filipino is 3 to 6 times of their monthly salary.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. So if for example 30,000 yung average salary of a Filipino, maybe the debt is 90
to 120,000.
Yeah. So ganun, no. So that's why it's important, especially at this time, na you minimize debt as much as possible.
Now, Emma, let's challenge the common belief. Now, why do you say protection should come before investing? Now, isn't investing the faster way to build wealth?
Yeah, so in managing our finances or in achieving wealth, no, there are basically two facets, no. The first is risk management, and the next is wealth accumulation or wealth building. So I'd like to ask you the question, Bro Robert. Would you live in a condo in the penthouse of a 40-story condo that na hindi siya hinukay? There's no like deep foundation for this condo. It's like they just built like from the ground floor. There's no like walang malalim na hukay.
You really have to look into that now. The foundation, how it's built to ensure you're secured.
Yeah, you would not want to live in that 40-story building na from the ground.
Oh, pag wala.
Walang
Yes,
So basically the risk management is the foundation. So like for example, meron akong yung sa Ayala, the BPI building, before it was now it's it's almost done na. Pero sobrang lalim nung hukay for it to be before they even built the foundation. So anyhow, ganun siya. That's risk management. And then the wealth building will be the mismong floors na up to the 40th. So you cannot build a high building if you do not have a deep foundation.
So when you look at the foundation, you liken that to protection in terms of the
risk
money
management,
that you
life insurance, health insurance, and everything. So that, kumbaga, na-manage mo yung risk mo, you transfer the risk to another entity. Because if you don't transfer the risk will be yours to bear, or it will be transferred to your family, to your loved
So even
ones.
if you have a huge amount of wealth, if the foundation is not very strong, it could actually wipe that out.
A minor earthquake or a storm can easily topple them.
And that goes the same with investing and the money that you have on hand.
Yes.
Now, Emma, in your experience, what is the most dangerous financial illusion Filipinos believe about insurance and risk management?
So the feeling of vulnerability, the feeling of invincibility. Invincibility na parang hindi mangyayari sa akin yan.
Because I'm earning so much.
I'm healthy, I'm doing 42Ks na in marathon. But life happens. Sometimes you would not expect, no. So the risk of being sick or passing away, without any protection, that's something na we see very often. Like nakita natin, like ngayon we see in our Facebook na please help my this is our GoFundMe or
like what we
GCash.
mentioned, one, let's say, medical scare or medical could wipe out the amount of money
like
that
decades
you've
of your
saved. But I've been hearing a lot, Emma, when people say, when you buy a car, you insure your car.
Yes.
When you buy a house, you insure your house. And everything else, when you go travel, you have travel insurance. But then when it comes to yourself or me or other individuals, they don't actually see that how important they are in terms of what kind of conversations do you have, with those who you talk to.
For example, Robert, if you have an ATM machine at your house, which gives you which gives you $500,000 a month.
Yeah.
Would would you not want to insure that ATM machine?
Of course.
You're that ATM machine.
If it insures me, that's me. I
You're
wish.
that ATM machine. Yeah. So ibig sabihin, kailangan mong, because the assets we insure, but the more important thing, entity that we should insure is the asset builder, the asset generator, which is the person.
Does it have something to do with the kind of mindset that we have as Filipinos? You know, we're a very consumer-driven economy. We like to spend a lot, on a daily basis.
Yes.
Is that one thing that we forget about how important we are, especially if we have a family?
Yes, the YOLO mindset and the bahala na.
Yeah.
Bahala na
Si
si Lord, si Batman, ko na si Batman. Bahala ng pamilya ko and everything. So, sadly, no, that's what happens when we rely on others, no, and then others are not able to support us. That's when, unfortunate circumstances occur.
But usually, what people think usually is, the cost of getting healthcare. Healthcare costs continue to rise. Now, if a breadwinner is hospitalized for 30 days, let's say tomorrow, what happens to a typical Filipino family's finances?
So,
if not protected?
Yeah, if they don't have any insurance, no, the cost of confinement ranges from 40 to 100,000. For mga viral, not so serious na, and then for critical illness, mga 500,000
to a million.
To a million. So that money, even if you had it, no, it was supposed to be for the education of your children, for your retirement fund, for your business venture. And if you did not have any protection, then that money is
build that
reallocated.
foundation, wala. Ubos kagad yan.
Ubos kagad, no? And you start from zero saving. So that's why, insurance exists, no? Because of risk transfer.
Okay. Now, we've mentioned the families, the individuals, the breadwinners. Now, let's look at the entrepreneurs now and SME owners. What is the bigger risk today, market volatility or being underinsured?
That's a good question, Robert. No, the market volatility kasi is temporary. So we've seen upset. You and I are medyo same age range. We've seen the good days and the bad days.
Yes.
Yeah, we've seen the market rise up and go down and everything. No, so it's temporary, but when there's like death in the business, that's permanent.
That's it.
There's critical illness, that's long term.
So if you don't plan for it, if you don't, again, build a foundation or protect it, it could just go away just like that.
Yeah.
Now, when markets become unstable, Eman, some people panic and pull out investments. Is that wise, or does that create a bigger long-term damage?
It really depends, Robert. No, like for example, if they really need the money, then there's no choice talaga. But if they don't need the money and they're just worried that they will lose money, they will actually lose money
if they take it out.
If they take it out. No, but if they don't take it out, it's just a paper loss. You just need to wait a bit of time, and the market will rebound. No, if you have more budget, if you have extra budget, but not your emergency fund, it would be wise to maybe add a bit or diversify to other assets. No, to hedge against that.
Now, looking at the markets, Eman, what is your outlook for, let's say, Meralco, RCR, Jollibee shares today?
I'm not sure about that. But
do you think, let's say, what kind of stocks should people buy today? Or should they go into stocks, or where else could they diversify or hedge their risks?
That really depends on the risk appetite of the person. Like, for example, if I'm conservative, bonds. If I'm in the middle, maybe like a mutual fund or an index fund here in the Philippines. If I'm aggressive, then I'll go global. So there's no correct answer for all people. It really depends on your risk appetite, and it depends on your current financial condition.
But usually during these kinds of times where there's tensions around the world, people look into gold or silver.
Yes. Kasi that's the.
It's a safe haven.
Yes, safe haven.
Do you see that happening right now?
Gold is increasing, diba? And then maybe an alternative like cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, we may see. Ngayon kasi it's like going down.
It's going down, yes.
But eventually,
so people move to gold and silver. And with currencies, the volatility in currencies and global tensions, should Filipinos be thinking about, where can I put my money today? How can I build more wealth? Where is should I really go to gold? Should I go to bonds? What's the best mix that they could do today? Plus, what we were talking about, protection.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. So the first is to be able to. I have 5 things now. So the first is to be able to develop your emergency fund. That's it. Maybe 3 to 6 months. Secondly, to be able to fortify your protection. So upgrade your protection before you upgrade your gadget. And then the third is medical coverage.
Yes.
The fourth is diversification of assets. So depending on your risk appetite, you can go for bonds and then stocks here in the Philippines, or global, So with the in the international platforms, they have like a mix of different global stocks, And then the fifth is debt management. So yung utang is make sure that wag masyadong umutang. So distinguish between in finance we call it there's a variable expense that is sorry, but I forget right now.
It's the fixed expense.
The fixed expense, and then there's the wants. Yung discretionary. So there's discretionary, and then there's non-discretionary. Non-discretionary, these are the expenses that you cannot forgo, like tuition fee, utility. Kasi it will have like an effect, big effect on your life.
Yes.
But the discretionary expense, these are like the expenses that we think are necessary but are actually not, like shopping, upgrading gadgets. So in these times, wag muna sa discretionary expense. Let's focus on the essentials.
Now, Emma, you mentioned your number one, the emergency funds. Does it still hold that when you save up for emergency funds, 3 to 6 months, does that still hold, or should it be longer?
The longer, the more the better. Cash is king, especially in these very
volatile times.
So the more that you can save up, the better. Yeah.
You were mentioning a while ago, spending on non-discretionary items. Like many young professionals do prioritize, lifestyle upgrades. You've mentioned travel, gadgets, and cars over protection. What would be your advice to them today?
Yes, you enjoy, but do not forget the future. Live in the moment, live in the present, but do not forget the future. Because this is also one of the things that I always say to my clients. The only person who will take care of the older you is the younger you right now. So you need to...
YOLO up to a point lang.
Yes. Because YOLO din, diba? You only die once.
Yes.
You only live once, but you also die once also.
True.
So you need to prepare for both things.
Now, what is the long-term consequence of delaying financial safeguards, the foundation, the protection that you've been mentioning?
It means that, number one, you expose yourself to higher risk. And then secondly, like for example, if you got your insurance at age 40 or 50 as compared to when you were 20, sobrang mahal na ng premium. Maybe double,
Because you're considered higher risk.
Higher risk na. Maybe you would have acquired, some medical conditions, So sobrang mahal
Kung
na.
dati pwede 15,000 premium, ngayon quadruple na.
Yes, maybe quadruple or sometimes more than 10 times. So what I'm saying is that the building, yung building, instead of you slowly, saving up for it or building it, yung building, if one time lang, you need to spend like 100 million instead of, maybe 100,000 a month for how many years, diba? So that's the consequence of
Emma, if you had to design a financial survival blueprint for uncertain times like these, now, what are the non-negotiable pillars for you?
Yeah, so I actually talked about them kanina, pero basically health, HELP. So health fund, emergency fund, life insurance fund, and the portfolio that is diversified. And also, one of the things also is diversification in terms of income stream also. So you cannot rely anymore on just one income stream. With AI and the uncertainty of the market, mahirap mag-rely on one income stream. That's why, maybe for some, we're looking for another source of income, the financial advisory can be a good avenue for them to earn.
Here in the Philippines alone, do you think there's enough awareness or education about, protection, about building the foundation, that, so that, your risk will be lower in terms of, when you grow up, you accumulate wealth, you actually protect it?
Actually, no, bro. So I work I'm a part of the board of the Asia Pacific Financial Services Association, and I know the saturation rates of some other countries. Like for example, in Japan, it's more than 90%, maybe even 95 to 99%. Taiwan also. In Taiwan, the clients, the consumers, they have 2 to 3 policies per person. Here in the Philippines, maybe around 20% pa lang yung insured eh.
20?
So ang laki pa na talaga ng area for improvement.
Is it awareness, or just people don't really think that insuring themselves, protecting themselves is very important, especially for the average daily worker who only, let's say, has 10 to 20,000 a month. It's very hard for them to put that kind of money into insurance.
You're right, no. So it's a combination of the financial capacity, culture, the bahala na, YOLO, and everything, no. The stigma behind insurance, no. Some people think it's still a scam or something, no. And then the awareness of people about insurance.
What is one real life financial mistake you have seen that could have been prevented with proper protection?
Like for example, there are people who have grown their business, but when they get sick, wala silang any health fund, no. So
wipe out.
They're not liquid because their business is expanding. Tapos they need to what happens? They borrow money or they compromise on their healing process, no, and then eventually they get
Again, in times of uncertainty, should families be more aggressive in pursuing, creating more protection?
Yes, of course. No, that depends on your budget. Again, of course, if you're medyo nasa is that you need to first fix your liquidity, and then if you have extra funds, I would suggest protection first before going for any other investments.
Okay, on that note, Eman, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. A lot of learnings, and hopefully those who are watching see the value of really protecting their assets, because that's very important. As you mentioned, one medical expense could wipe out years of savings or investment. Thank you very much for joining us this
Thank
afternoon.
you so much.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. This is Business Brief.
Asking the right questions.
Shareholders file a lawsuit against Apollo Global Management and co-founders Leon Black and Mark Rowan. They are accused of misleading investors about business dealings with disgraced sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Apollo stock dropped about 15% over 3 weeks in February, wiping out nearly $12 billion in market value. The lawsuit sought accountability for alleged misrepresentations and called for further Securities and Exchange Commission and Department of Justice investigations into the firm's dealings with Epstein. Asian shares mostly slide as investors eye risks to the region's energy supply from the Iran war, while oil prices rise sharply on concerns over potential disruptions. Only Straits Times is in the green, with Kospi falling the most at over 7%. In currency trading, the US dollar mostly depreciates against the Asian currencies. In commodities, gold and oil trades higher. In crypto, Bitcoin drops almost 2% and Ethereum falls over 2%. The CEO of Thai conglomerate Charawan Pokpan Group calls for a comprehensive national artificial intelligence strategy to secure Thailand's digital sovereignty and protect against automated cyber threats. At a digital policy conference in Bangkok, he emphasized the need to link AI governance with data center infrastructure. He warned that technology is reaching a point where human intervention may not be sufficient. He highlighted the growing role of AI in managing cybersecurity. He also stressed the importance of automated defense systems to address future digital risks. The CEO said Thailand is in a position to become an advanced AI nation if its leaders take decisive action. Amazon is reportedly spending $427 million to snap up a Virginia campus, the latest bet in the artificial intelligence infrastructure race. Amazon Data Services is acquiring George Washington University's Virginia Science and Technology campus. The property, which is a key data center hub, will be used to build an information technology center, according to the campus student paper. Amazon has yet to issue a statement on the report. Amazon previously said it plans to invest $35 billion by 2040 to expand data centers in Virginia, on top of $35 billion spent in Northern Virginia over the decade through 2020. The move comes as tech firms pour money into AI software, chips, and cloud infrastructure, with commitments hitting at least $630 billion this year. Qantas CEO Vanessa Hudson gives an assurance the airline has strong fuel hedging. But she admits that soaring oil prices due to the U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict poses challenges in the aviation sector. Major Gulf hubs, including Dubai Airport, have remained closed for 4 days, stranding thousands of passengers and disrupting global flights. Qantas was not directly affected but is assisting Emirates passengers while monitoring fuel costs with 81% of second-half fuel hedged. Experts warn the conflict could affect oil availability and prices, with Japan Airlines and global traders also expecting cost pressures. Philippine shares end in the positive territory. The PSCI closes nearly 0.3% higher to 64.45. Among the sectoral indices, only services end in the green, with mining and oil falling the most at over 2%. Decliners outpace advancers 117 to 83, with value turnover at 8.9 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with Apex Mining falling the most at over 4%. DigiPlus rises the most at almost 11%. In currencies, the peso closes at 58.435 against the US dollar, down from the previous close of 58.2. The Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, or RCBC, is recognized by Times and Statista for excellence in employee satisfaction, revenue growth, and ESG standards. The bank ranked 8th among Philippine firms in the Asia-Pacific Best Companies of 2026 list. It placed 30th for employee satisfaction across 500 companies in the region. RCBC has also been awarded for sustainability initiatives, including Platinum ESG Awards and recognition as Best Bank for Sustainable Development. Now in its 65th year, RCBC continues to focus on people, financial strength, and governance while driving purposeful and sustainable growth. SMX Convention Center, the MICE arm of SM Prime Holdings, reports record attendance of 8.54 million in 2025, a 34% jump from the previous year. The surge was driven by flagship events like PhilConstruct, WOFEX, and the Manila International Auto Show, with regional hubs including Clark, Bacolod, Davao, and Olongapo contributing to growth. SMX hosted 1,632 events across 8 properties, and demand is now nearly evenly split between Metro Manila and provincial venues. To meet rising demand, SM Prime is building SMX Seaside Cebu and a new center in the Mall of Asia, expanding total leasable space to nearly 60,000 square meters by 2027. A single contaminated ingredient has triggered a global baby formula scare, sparking recalls by Nestle, Danone, and Lactalis across more than 65 countries. The toxin, found in Ara oil supplied by Cabio Biotech in Shanghai, can cause vomiting and diarrhea and is under investigation following 2 infant deaths in France. Nestlé detected the contamination at its factory in Netherlands, while Lactalis noted cereulide is not part of required testing, and Danone declined to comment. Experts warn the incident highlights risks in global supply chains and premium formula, with the biggest impact likely on parental trust. House Deputy Speaker and Iloilo Representative Janet Garin insists Nestlé Philippines should face sanctions if investigators find lapses in handling the infant formula recall. Garin criticized the company for insufficient public information on affected products and warned that some units may have remained on shelves in the Visayas and Mindanao. She urged parents to act quickly if babies vomit and called on the FDA to verify retrieved units and boost local information drive in communities. Garin also stressed that consumers should receive refunds and said she may sponsor a House resolution to investigate the recall. Petron Corporation posts record earnings in 2025 with net income soaring 84% to 15.6 billion pesos, driven by stronger domestic demand and improved refinery operations. Revenues fell 7% to 810 billion pesos due to weaker global crude prices, but operating income rose 28%, highlighting the company's resilience in a volatile energy market. Petron sold 113.4 million barrels in the Philippines and Malaysia, increasing market share in petroleum and LPG sectors. Chairman Ramon Ang said the company's focus on supply chain strength, footprint expansion, and refinery optimization helped it grow despite external challenges. EEI Corporation starts 2026 with 1.6 billion pesos in new real estate contracts. The company will build 2 21-story towers for Torre Lorenzo Development Corporation in the Tierra Davao estate, including Crown Residences and Crest Suites. The project aims to provide modern living spaces and boost employment in Mindanao's Lanang Business District. EEI President Henry Antonio said the contracts diversify the firm's 36.85 billion peso order book beyond infrastructure projects. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again tomorrow for the stories that help you plan your next big, bold business move. Only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.